Masks in After Effects are very straightforward to use. To use a mask in After Effects, all you have to do is select a layer that you want masking to be applied to, and then use either your shape tools or your pen tool. Any of the drawing tools will work. So if I get my rectangle tool here, for instance, with a layer selected, and draw, click and drag anywhere, first of all, it's going to appear like everything is gone. As soon as I start dragging that over the layer, you'll see that it's actually revealing the part of the layer that's being masked. Okay? It shows up as a Bezier or a vector path around the subject. Now this is because it is currently set to add. Now by default, when you click and draw a mask, it's going to draw that mask in add mode. Now as soon as you have a mask drawn out here in the composition window, then you'll see that mask show up as a subset of your layer. Okay? Now you have a masks section, and you can have any number of masks in here working together, or one mask doing its own thing. You can name them. You should name them. When you're using 2 or more masks, it'll make your life a lot easier if you call them something. And you can also change the color of them as well, which makes it very easy to work with them when you have a number of masks sitting out there. If they're all different colors, it becomes very easy to identify which mask is which and which mask is doing a particular job. Now this is set to add, and this is the visual result. Just resize that. Now if I set that to subtract, then it's going to punch a hole in the video layer. So add and subtract are the first two that you'll notice a difference when you're working with a single mask. Now when you have that layer selected, if you go back and either use your rectangle tool or any of your shape tools, or indeed the pen tool, if you keep drawing shapes onto that layer, then they're going to be added as extra masks in that subset, that mask subset there, and by default it will also be set to add. Okay, so what I can do is I can build up masks here if I want, or I could change that one to subtract, and I can subtract from the result of the masking that has already been done. So it works from top down. As you create a mask, it will add it directly underneath the previous mask, and it will have some sort of an effect on the composite result of the masks that you've already created. So I'll call this one circle. And now what I can do is I can get my pen tool and just draw a rough shape. Now with the pen tool, it won't become a mask until you close that path. Okay, so now I've created I'll call it a freehand mask, and it's adding back to the result of the previous masks that have been applied to the layer. So what I could do here now is I'll change this to green, and I'll change this back to yellow. So what you'll find is that you may, when you go into more advanced rotoscoping, you could be using 10, 15 masks simultaneously on a layer. So that's why it's very important to get into the habit of naming them and color coding them so that you can see exactly what's going on. Now these masks can be set to a couple of different modes as well there. So I've got add and I've got subtract. If I was to change this to intersect, then you'll get the intersection between those two masks. Now these are the ones that I'm going to focus on for this class. We're going to look at add, subtract and intersect. Okay, so they're very straightforward. Just think of it as going top down. You start with one mask, another one gets added underneath it, and whatever that mask is doing will take an effect on the result of whatever masks you already have above it. Okay. Now the masks themselves have properties. Okay, so I'm going to delete a circle and just stick with one for the moment, just to keep it straightforward. The mask path property will actually allow you to move that path around point by point or in its entirety as you go through the piece of video. So let's say I have this mask here now, and I keyframe the mask path, and then I move the playhead. What I can do is I can command click and then double click on it to grab it as a unit, pull it across, and that will actually keyframe the mask path, and now I've done my first bit of rotoscoping. Now you can also keyframe individual or groups of what are called vertices on your mask as well. So each one of these points on a mask is called a vertex, and if I select one and I'm further down the timeline, if I was to pull that forward, then that will actually keyframe the position of that vertex. I could go and drag another one out at that point as well, and what I'd be doing is I'd be expanding the size of that mask. So there's lots of different ways you might find that you need to adjust these masks. You might want to pull the entire mask across the screen, as we'll be looking at in a moment, or you might just want to adjust certain points. When you get into really detailed rotoscoping, such as with the pen tool, you'll find that you're going point by point a lot of the time. Now, before I go any further, actually, if you want to adjust your mask but you want to still leave the actual overall video frame visible, then you change it from add, subtract or intersect to none, and that allows you to edit the mask and still be able to see the entire video. And this becomes particularly relevant when you are rotoscoping, when you need to follow someone or follow some of the action. You need to see where the action is going so that you can move your object with them. Okay, so set it to none when you want to see everything, and then set it back to add when you need to see the mask take effect. So the mask path moves either the vertices or the entire mask itself. The mask feather allows you to soften your mask. Mask opacity will select whatever's in that mask or outside of that mask and adjust the opacity of it. And the mask expansion will allow you to keep your mask as is, but alter the relative size of the visual result of your mask to be smaller than the mask or larger than the mask. Okay, that's basically it for masks. They're very simple to use. The difficulty comes in the actual nuts and bolts or practice of rotoscoping, which we'll look at now in a minute. So just